All right. So fostering learner autonomy, and I'm going to show you a couple of pictures in the slides now, and ask you a few questions. So I would really appreciate if you say something in the chat because let's make it kind of collaboration and communication, not just a talk. Okay. So why do you think this thing is here? It's a fishbowl. What is it? What is it doing here on my slide? Okay. Well, this is someone who knows something about teenagers and students generally, especially in our time. All right, that's interesting. See how many different associations. We keep saying something, all right? Uh-huh. Yeah, so I think it's like my association was more like boundaries, limited space. In other words, here, this fishbowl is a representation, a visualization of a fishbowl. Oh, sorry, of a classroom. Yeah, a fishbowl like a classroom. And our classrooms have both advantages and disadvantages, obviously, in terms of teaching someone. And if we look at it through the student's eyes, learner's eyes, in terms of learning. So on the plus side, classroom is a safe environment where everything is sort of clear. They know other people, our learners know other people who are their peers, let's say, they know their teacher, they know different types of tasks, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, our classroom is quite artificial and restricted. And of course, like Anastasia says it in the chat, that it's quite far from real life very often. I mean, and no matter what we do, it's never real life. I mean, we try to bring in as much real life as possible, but it's never the situation when our learners, cross this threshold between the classroom and real life and start operating in English, in our case, or in any other language. And operating in English somewhere out of the classroom is much more scary, obviously. So when I think about autonomy, I think that it's more, it's like an opportunity or a feeling that, a learner is comfortable and capable of functioning and operating efficiently in real life. And it's the situation when our learner doesn't really feel like, I'm sure you know this metaphor, yeah, like a fish out of water. This is what you don't want your learner to feel. That's why answering the question, what do we actually teach in a language classroom, in an English language classroom, any language classroom, any classroom, I think, basically, it's not only the subject itself, and as Lena said, not only the hard skills, yeah, it's also all sorts of things and strategies and meta skills and meta strategies that just help our learner feel comfortable and do what they have to do without the teacher behind them, because you're not always going to be behind them. And I used some materials, obviously, preparing for this talk, for this conversation with you. And you can see the three principles of learner autonomy, which are very often mentioned in literature devoted to this area. And learner autonomy actually means, there's three things. First, learner involvement in the process. Learner reflection, so the learner's ability to reflect on what they're doing, how they're doing, how they achieve what they want to achieve on different levels. And also target language use, which should be meaningful, and meaningful not to someone else, but meaningful to the learner themselves. And today, I decided to share, a couple of cases and a few tips that I've collected from different years of my work with different kinds of students. And I just put them together, and I'm going to share how I think the things you can do in the classroom reflect these three principles. Okay, so the first one is learner involvement. Here we go. And here we're going to look at some exercises or maybe ways of addressing things we do in the classroom that, in my view, reflect that principle, okay? Learner involvement. So my question to you as teachers, do you ever teach, sorry, Andrew Walkley, present simple? Do Do you ever teach present simple in your classroom? That's everybody thinks like that's a compromising question. So, I mean, if you teach present simple in your classrooms, what do you usually talk about with your learners, or what do your learners usually talk about in your classrooms using present simple? So, could you again type something in the chat saying they talk about this daily routine? Fantastic routines. Could you specify, please? Routines are there's so many different routines. So, your learners, what kind of routines if they're routines? So, daily routine. Okay. Typical day at work. Hobbies. Mm-hmm. Anything else, please? Habits. Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. And obviously they're very different for different learners, yeah. But very often when you open a course book, it goes like, um, okay, talk about your daily routines to, don't know, your partner, your peer. And I always think like, how often in life do we talk about our daily routines? How often are people interested? I mean, of course, there are contexts, but they're quite specific. Yeah, like how do you achieve this and this? How do you maybe plan your day or something like that if people are interested? But generally speaking, if we think about our learners, they don't very often talk about it in real life. Yeah, like, hi, I get up at 7 o'clock, and so on. Like, you always think, is it really a topic which might involve the learners? Maybe not. Yeah. And if you talk about resolutions, that's more about future plans, actually. So really present simple, things like that. So I decided the first thing to talk about is to think about real life contexts that are important, I think, if you want to involve a learner. And I decided to start with present simple and show you my former student, my current trainer, and my former student. So this is Anna. She's an aerialist because she's my trainer as I'm doing this sport. And so she used to be my learner for a while, then she quit because she's a very busy person. But at a certain time, she was studying present simple, okay, with me. So let's think about ways of involving Anna. And here's a little task for you. What context do you think would be relevant for her, knowing what she does? Okay. And how could you take it outside the classroom? Remember, we're thinking about learner autonomy. So, how would you take it outside the classroom so you teach Anna something that is not just present simple, but she can do something in her real life using present simple after your lesson or a couple of lessons. So, could you again type something in the chat like, what do you think would be relevant for her? Promise to share what we did. Mm-hmm. Preparation for the competition. Yeah, remember present simple. Yeah. Describing an aerial gymnastics routine. Yeah, things that are important all the time. Yeah, I agree. Sounds good to me. Mm-hmm. To whom? When you say describing or the description of the steps, so who do you think she might talk to when she describes aerial routines? Because it's very good when the context is super specific, forgot the word. Like it's very important who she might talk to. And when we think about relevant contexts for our learners, well, we think who they actually talk to, or they might talk to using English. That's this idea of if we take sociolinguistics, this idea of a domain, yeah, so topic, situation, and the roles. Ooh, that's very good. A how-to for beginners on how to do aerial gymnastics. So describing the sport also to beginners, maybe talking to colleagues, yeah, maybe describing some successful routines. Yeah, very nice. Yeah. And now notice how far your suggestions are from your previous suggestions. Okay. Like looking at her. And you're not far away from what we did. So we decided, as she also teaches online sometimes, or gives advice online, because she's quite a famous trainer. And this is what we did. So we created, as I say, it's a possible solution because, of course, there are ways, a health questionnaire uh, with questions that, she wanted to ask, like colleagues maybe, or in our case, it was new aerialists, fresh aerialists, who just wanted to do trainings with her. Here we go. And it's a very important questionnaire because, it's a hard sport and you need to know something about food and about your routines, and you need to prepare your body, your brain, your nervous system for it. And interestingly enough, she's got students who are English speaking online and who speak Russian because she teaches offline a lot. So we got different responses in different languages. See, and people replied the way they could. Doesn't matter because the idea was to collect this information she needed for them. And in class, when we were discussing, actually sort of putting together this information, she got, we just summarized it. And while she was summarizing what is important, she also used present simple, okay, that a successful aerialist does this and this and this, or she does something, or a beginner aerialist does something, and so on. So here's just an example, right, of how you want to contextualize whatever you do with your learners, and obviously it does increase involvement. From here, we'll move on. Oh, sorry, it's just a summary of what a relevant context does. So have a look and how it actually changes probably the learner's attitude. Because, ask me to tell you about my routine. I will ask you why should I my routine and why do you want to know it? I mean, but if I explain, I will. But anyway, what is very important? It's a bridge between the artificiality of the classroom and the real life application. Next time she needs to create a questionnaire, she will do it. And it's more about hard skills and using English as a tool and using the target language meaningfully, you see, and seeing how it really works. So it's also important, I think, to contextualize tasks. Sometimes, again, you open a course book and they say, like, talk to your partner about this and this and this, or fill in the gaps with these forms. And the question is, like, why? If we talk about the learner autonomy, I think it's super important for a learner to understand why they do things they do in the classroom. Because when they stop going to classes, if they understand what types of tasks you did, why they were useful, how to approach certain materials that you're using with them in the classroom, then they might be able to do it on their own without the teacher who said, I know this exercise is very important for me. Yeah, because we did it with a teacher and she explained why it's actually necessary. So this is called actually contextualizing tasks and also signposting tasks. Signposting, you know what a signpost is on the road, yeah? So you just basically tell the learner what you're driving at and what's going to happen after that and why you're doing this after this, yeah? And let me show you another case. Here you can see two tasks from Spotlight 5. Doesn't matter which course book, okay? Don't curse Spotlight at the moment. Because you can see something like that in quite a few course books, really. The questions are also, if you type something in the chat, that would be good and interesting to see what you think. Why do you think the learners might not get really involved? Remember, we're talking about learner autonomy as one of the principles. Oh, sorry, learner involvement as one of the principles of learner autonomy. And why do you think these tasks might not be very developmental in terms of enhancing learner autonomy? So just have a look at the instruction and the way they're designed and say something in the chat, please. Oh, thanks very much, Dalia. So good. Why to describe your rooms? We're always basically, yeah. So we're there, notice. Yeah, you don't normally talk about your room with people. I mean, you might, but a good question is why someone doesn't have a bedroom. And look, there's another thing. If we talk about teenagers, Elena talked about, or maybe younger children or some adults, what if they don't have a nice bedroom? I mean, What if they just don't want to share what they have in the bedroom? Of course, it's okay to, I think, yeah, they say make it or fake it. Yeah, like to make up your dream room. But I think it should be in the instruction because not all your learners are brave enough to, make up a story about their bedroom. And they might just feel, a little bit shy to do it. And a very good question is why? Like again, when in real life do we talk about the bedroom? So I think that if you follow this course book, and it's okay to follow this course book, what a teacher should do to really make sure the learners are involved and they understand what's happening. You need to recontextualize or contextualize these tasks. And also, a very important thing, give the learners a reason to do them. So this is what I say. I'm very, very close to your answers, you can say. So ask questions about your partner's bedroom. Bedroom is quite a private space. There's no reason to do the task. So what do you think? What could be a context? Let's say teenagers, because the contexts differ obviously depending on the age and the relevance and everything. But if we take just a class of teenagers, what could be good context for asking and answering about your bedroom? Let's have a look. I love your comments. Thanks very much. It's Spotlight 5. I mean, they're like quite young children, okay, in this book, the ones that are using the book. But what could be a good context? The bedroom of your dream. Why not? Compare your bedroom with Harry Potter's room, whatever. Like there should be some kind of a need. And I can see that you agree with me. Same with about this writing task. When you say write a paragraph about your bedroom, it's like what kind of writing is it? I mean, writing is a genre, isn't it? Like, is it what? Is it an email to a friend, or is it a description somewhere on a website because you want to, maybe it's an exchange program and you want to invite a student from a different country to stay with you for a while? You like, what kind of writing is it? We don't understand at all. And obviously, a student can't understand where to start, what to do, what to write, and it's like it's not really developing anything. This task, apart from just writing words, putting some things together. Why write it is not clear. Who's the audience? All these things, and obviously, if you don't add this, um, it's not going to work and it's not going to develop anything. I think neither hard skills, really, because it's not a developmental exercise from the point of view of writing, nor soft skills, because it's not clear what you're teaching your learners to do in real life. With adults, it's not easier. I disagree with this comment because the idea is basically the same, but it's just that the context is going to be different, and adults obviously have different goals, okay, and needs, and you just need to take it into account. We don't have much time. That's why I'm really happy that we've sort of discussed in detail these things. Now, I'm going to just take you through some ideas that I think also reflect the principle of, enhancing learner autonomy, fostering learner autonomy in the classroom, and things that I think personally we need to think about. So it was the context, you remember. Now, autonomy is about decision making. And it's very nice. It's a hard skill, by the way. And it's very nice when in the classroom, learners have an opportunity to develop decision-making skills because it's not easy to do that. And this is where I think you could work with your learners, what you could do in the classroom. Have a look. So this is just some useful techniques. They could choose and negotiate together with other partners the focus of the lesson. Something they think is super important for them, for their university studies, or maybe they feel uncomfortable doing speaking and they might tell you about it. And knowing this, you could include more speaking tasks or speaking lessons as part of your, syllabus and so on. Homework and no homework. Look, there are opportunities, and there are also books which say that basically doing homework it does affect learning, but not very much. For example, the level of challenge in the classroom affects learning outcomes much more than homework. So, and it's just good for a student to feel that they can affect what you do in the classroom, and that you sort of care about what they think, and they can, make this decision on their own. What kind of homework? For someone, it's more important, for example, to do gap fills because they find it difficult to memorize the forms and stuff like that. But someone might want a creative task, like a piece of writing, for example, or project work or something like that. So a teacher could give choices for different learners in the group. Deadlines for tasks. I always do that with my learners, especially if a task is sort of complex and requires a lot of time. And I say when. They say Monday. I say what time? I say 9 o'clock. Okay. And I can tell you that there are more learners who achieve the task because it feels like their responsibility already, that they've actually assigned the deadline for this task, not the teacher. And, it's a nice feeling that something depends on them. And the level of challenge in the task can also be chosen by the learners sometimes because, look, they're human. Sometimes they're tired, exhausted, or very brave today and want to, try something new, something more challenging. And this is an idea of that I borrowed from Lena Pirisada, who talks a lot about, gamification and stuff. And I think it's lovely in terms of developing learner autonomy and making choices. So you can just read it on the screen, but it means that basically you grade the same task. You create, an easy version, a slightly more difficult version, and a difficult version of a task. And then the learners choose. You don't impose the choice. They choose. Like today, I'm just ready for the easiest version. Or sometimes, slower learners want to try a more challenging option. Why not give them this opportunity? So it's all about choices and obviously helps learner autonomy. Using a learner's expertise is another idea. And again, a few techniques. Like it's nice when the learner's expertise might shine through in the lesson. Like if their English is not very good, they might be almost proficient musicians or very good sportsmen, or they might know a lot about physics or history. And why not allow them to show what they know in class? And these are some ideas. Yeah. So like the learner, again, they make decisions, select what they're going to be experts on, and in different lessons you can sort of use their expertise in other areas in class, or when you discuss a topic which is close to what they feel confident in, and again, it makes them more, they say, yeah, I said I'm an expert on music and this is my opinion, and they might be more confident talking about it. You can look at the task materials through the expert lens. So for example, this is an adult student, Tanya, and she's my former student. She's a history teacher, and we watched a video with her about the history of Russia, a very nice one on TED, very short, fantastic presentation, an American one. And her task was, for example, to compare and find discrepancies between the facts she studied in the history books as a professional and what she heard in this video. And the language was wonderful there. So you basically use a video, but you also use this teacher's expertise to look at it the way she wants to look at it. She was really proud, as you said, to find some discrepancies between the facts. I included the link to that video. Okay, so if you want, you can just go on YouTube and have a look because we won't have time to watch it. Learner reflection. That's another principle, another part of learner autonomy. And it's about basically reflecting on what you do and how you do it and trying to develop some successful strategies. So you can see on the screen how we did it with teenagers back in 2018. It's on Padlet. Padlet now works only with VPN, but you can use, let's say, Mirrorboard, you can use Google Docs, you can use whatever you like. So any tech tool does matter. But my teenage group, they actually set goals for the year on their own, and then they reflected on them. So these are the goals, and they obviously write about them in English, using English as a tool. And here they reflect, what have you done today to achieve your goals? How do you feel after the lesson? And they shared and then also edited their text. So, there was a lot of reflection going on here. Checklists is also a way to reflect on how they did the task. And I love checklists because the learners can use checklists to self-assess, to assess their peers constructively. You know, there are so many different checklists you could create, even for younger learners. You can see a few examples on the screen, and I just found them on the internet. So have a look, because self-reflection is super important, and because the learners notice where they need to work more, what helped them, to do the task better, and so on. Uh, Globally, noticing micro changes and tiny achievements. And you could develop a system with the learners that's already about hard skills of any level to track their achievements, because students are worst critics. Okay, so when they don't achieve something, they start blaming themselves, they start thinking they're stupid. So uh, help them notice tiny achievements, micro steps that show that they're developing. And again, it could be any system. My favorite thing is Google Docs, and it's just an example for you if you like it. You can find this kind of a to-do list on spreadsheets in Google Docs, and you have an example. That's a teacher trainee I was working with, okay? And this is how she was dealing with a complex task, sort of setting the goals, crossing them out when they're achieved. And, then you're proud when you sort of cross out plenty of steps and something complex that you do. So if you like it, use it. So here we go, basically. So to summarize, this is what I think are the objectives of a teacher who wants to enhance some kind of learner autonomy and teach the learners some learner autonomy. And as you can see, it's not about English only. So in terms of hard skills, make sure you create meaningful context related to real life. And it's very nice when speaking, writing in English becomes the everyday routine. They reflect in it, they create some little questionnaires in English, they talk to you in English in chats, they write checklists and so on, because then it's also scary. Okay, it's not the main thing they're trying to achieve, it's just a tool. And they get used to it very easily and become more autonomous using it. Devolve more responsibility to the learners. They can make decisions, they can decide on their own, they can be co-constructors of the learning process, use their expertise in other areas. And, some little meta strategies and skills are always important for real life. So this is probably everything I wanted to say. As Lena said, I think I'm almost managed a bit longer because we started later. Sorry about that. There are 3 books, not only books, but also articles on learner autonomy if you're interested in some further reading. I loved the third one. You can find it, I think, on the ITEFL website. So have a look. There's like a full document there. So David Little is basically the major writer. He writes a lot about learner autonomy. So just check out his books and some articles. So thank you very, very much for listening. You can see my contacts here, Telegram, mail, and Forbidden Gram, obviously. If you have any questions, I don't think we have time because, the timing is a bit wrong already with the last talks, but I'm going to stay here in the chat and you can ask me any questions. So thanks very much